Hey, welcome back to S&S Grills. Today at the grill, I want to show you how to do the Cold Grate Technique, whether it's reverse sear, front sear. This method is going to be a game changer, and I know you're going to love it. As I said, welcome back to S&S Grills. I appreciate you being here. My name's Jabin Postal, and today at the grill, I want to show you how to do a proper cold grate technique. And this method can be used whether you're doing a reverse sear or a front sear on steaks, chicken, or whatever protein you're cooking. And so the process of the cold grate technique is basically we're using the heat of the coals versus the heat of the grill to cook and to sear our steaks. And so whenever I'm using this method for steak specifically, I like to look at how thick my steak is. For this one here today, it's about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter thick. And so for this one specifically, I will be front searing the steak. If it's about 2 inches thick, I always set up for the low and slow method, and then I do finish it off with the cold grate technique. And so to do that, I set it up, like I said, for the low and slow method. And then when it comes time to do the final sear, I mix together all my coals and get them roaring hot, and then finish it off with 1 minute on each side, twice spinning the grate each time before the flip. And so with the front sear technique, what I like to do is I like to do the hot and fast method of setting up the slow and sear, which means the coals are roaring hot right from the beginning, and then I'm going to place the steak directly over those coals, and then each time I flip, I'm going to also spin the grate, flip it over onto those coals, again using the coals to sear versus the grill grates. And so for this cook today, because my steak is about an inch and a quarter thick, I am going to be starting with the hot and fast method to begin the cold grate technique. And so what that means is I have my steak, and I'm going to first of all season the steak with some of my barbecue rub. Today I'm using this Meathead's red meat barbecue rub, and it's going to go great on this steak. It's got the salt, it's got some pepper, it's got some herbs in there. There we go, flip that over. And get the other side. Gonna press that in. There we go. So like I said, today, because the steak is a little bit on the thinner side, about an inch and a quarter thick, I am going to be using the hot and fast method of setting up the slow and sear. If you have that 2 inch thick steak, you can do the reverse sear method, which is going to be incredible whenever you're doing a thick steak. But for this ribeye today, I'm going to be using the hot and fast method with the cold grate technique. And so I do have a full chimney of hot briquettes already into the slow and sear. And so what I'm going to do is going to open up the lid, and you'll notice that there is no grill grate inside of the kettle right now because it is off to the side, staying cold. And I'm going to place that directly over the coals first of all. And then at this point, I'm going to get the steak onto the grill on the opposite side before I spin it over to start the cold grate technique process. And the process of this is I'm going to be cooking the steak directly over those hot coals for 1 minute on each side twice, which means it's going to go for about 4 minutes total cooking time. It's going to provide a great sear on both sides. And then once we get to that point, I'm going to place it back onto the indirect side, close the lid, and let it continue and finish coming up to my desired temperature, which is today is going to be about 127, so that it carries over to that perfect medium rare. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to get this bone-in ribeye onto the grill. I'm going to place it onto the indirect side. I'm also going to grab a glove because I don't want to burn myself on the hot grill grate as I continue to spin it. And so I'm going to start by spinning it over those direct coals. And then I'm going to take my stopwatch and start to time the cook for 1 minute on each side. Again, I'm going to do this twice so that we have an end result of about 4 minutes. All right, there's the first minute. So I'm going to spin the grate all the way around. I'm going to take my steak and place it directly over those coals once again. And you can see that the outer surface is already starting to brown. It's starting to sort of sear up a little bit, but it's not nearly done whatsoever. So I'm going to just continue to let it ride using that cold grate technique. All right, there's the second minute. So again, I'm going to rotate the grill grate, get the steak right over those coals again. And so one thing that you will notice at the 3-minute and 4-minute marks of flipping, the flames are gonna sort of intensify a little bit more as the fats start to drip into the coals. And this is totally fine. It's just gonna help create a great sear on the outside of the steak. So we are at the 3-minute mark now. So I'm gonna spin the grate one more time, flip this over, and just take a look at the bubbling of the oils and the fats on that steak. So like I said, I'm gonna let this go for one last minute before I move it over to the indirect side just to finish cooking. All right, so I'm at the 4-minute mark, and just take a look at this. Look at that sear going on. So I'm just gonna move it off to the indirect side now, and I'm gonna let this steak just come up to temperature by closing up the grill, and I'm gonna let the steak come up to that medium rare temperature, and it's not gonna take very long. And the process is exactly the same when you're doing the reverse sear, only in the reverse. You're gonna let the steak come up to temperature, probably around 110 degrees. Do the cold grate technique, 1 minute on each side twice, and then your steak should finish off around the 127 degree mark, which means it's gonna rest up to about 132 degrees, which is gonna be a perfect medium rare. All right, this steak is fully seared, and just take a look at that color. It looks absolutely delicious. And so I'm just gonna slice it in half, give you a little look. And just take a look at that. It's a perfect medium rare. I'm gonna slice it up to go for a taste test and see how it is. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely wonderful. Let's take a look at that. You know, whether it's the front sear or reverse sear method, the cold grate technique is absolutely a game changer whenever you're using the Sloan sear in a kettle grill. The results are absolutely phenomenal. You get that incredible crust and sear Maillard reaction every single time without losing the flavor of the actual steak or whatever you're cooking. This method is a go-to, it's game changing, and I know you're gonna love it for sure.